guys, today I'm going to be doing my last wrap up for 2018. That feels so weird to say because it feels like 2018 just flew by and I don't even know where the year went. Now, I only read 4 books since my previous wrap up, so I figured I would combine this wrap up with kind of a TBR for next month, but it's not really a TBR because I'm going to be pulling a challenge out of this jar and I'm going to read a book to fulfill that challenge, and I don't know what book it's going to be. I'm not going to choose in this video. You guys can even recommend some books for me to read if you want to. If I don't own the books, I will write the books you guys recommend down, the way I can look into it later. Maybe I'll want to buy the book, but right now I'm gonna try to focus on like dwindling my TBR pile this year. I mean, I focus on that every year, but I'm really cracking down on it this year. So we'll do this at the end of the video. Right now, let's get to what I read. Also, I apologize about any background noise you hear. My mom is doing the dishes, and even though it's across the house, it's actually very loud. Okay, so the first 2 books I read were manga. I read volume 5 and 6, right? This is volume 5 and 6 of Haikyuu. I've actually wanted to get like to volume 10 this year, but that didn't happen. And one of my goals for this year is, well, one of my goals for 2019 is to complete the entire series up to the last release volume, because the series is still ongoing, and I've actually already pre-ordered the next like 3 or 4 volumes that are coming out. So as long as I like read up to the point that they've been published in the US, I'll be very, very happy, because I think it's like on volume like 30 something and I am like way behind. And if you guys don't know what the series is about, it basically follows a boy named Hinata who is very short, but he wants to be like his idol, the Little Giant. The Little Giant was the ace of Karasuno's volleyball team, and he took them to nationals when he was in school. So Hinata joins Karasuno, and he wants to be an amazing player like him and take his team to nationals, and this is basically just following his journey as him and his teammates try to do that, which is kind of made harder because Hinata kind of sucks at the beginning of the series, and he gets better at a very natural pace and through natural means. I mean, if you guys have read sports animes, or if you guys have read sports manga, oh my god, I cannot believe I said read animes. If you guys have read sports mangas, or if you have seen a few sports animes, you know they have like these special impossible moves they do and everything. Prince of Tennis, like the later on in the series, is a very good example of this. Kokoro's Basketball is another good example of this, and it's just like impossible things that they do, and it's just, you can never do this in real life. In this series, all of this stuff, I mean, I've actually seen actual professional volleyball players do a majority of the things they do. So it's more believable, and I find that a lot more enjoyable than like sports animes and mangas that have like these special techniques that no one in real life could actually do. Which is why this is one of my favorite sports manga and anime series. And I'm really, really hoping that this series gets a season 4 this year, because they left us on such a cliffhanger at the end of season 3, and even though I know the manga continues on and everything, I need it to be an anime. Next book I read, and I'm not going to talk much about, is Queen of Mirror and Darkness by Cassandra Clare. I have an entire reading vlog and kind of discussion for this, but a couple of things that I didn't touch on in that video, which I'll leave linked in the description box below if you guys want to check that out. But one of the things I didn't touch on was the fact that I got tired of Julian and Emma. Julian is like one of my favorite characters in the series besides Kit and Tai, and he was an idiot in this book. I mean, I understand why he did what he did, but still, idiot. But I mean, anytime it switched to their point of view, I couldn't wait to get out of their point of view to go do something more interesting with other characters, and it's just like I got so tired of them. And I think that was mainly because of the relationship drama and all that crap. When we were in Julian's point of view, I was fine until he got his emotions back, and then it's like, eh. But I think it was mainly because Emma was just so focused on how much she loves Julian and how much, you know, she's hurt by what he did. And it's like, yes, I understand this. I get this. But I don't like hearing about it every time we go to your point of view. It's like, we get it. Out of this series, I think my favorite book has been Lord of Shadows. And I don't like to say that because there was so much I liked about this book, and I liked the conclusion of this book and everything, even though it ended in a way that the previous series had ended, which was kind of annoying. But I mean, besides the fact that I was tired of Julian and Emma, I was tired of so much relationship drama happening, and the fact that the beginning of it was so dragged out. I mean, it could have ended a lot sooner than it did. I mean, besides like those key points, I mean, I had very few problems with the book. I mean, those were, I mean, I don't know. It was just something about Lord of Shadows that I liked a lot more than this. And maybe my reading taste has changed since the time between those two books. I don't know. It's just, I didn't like this one very much. I think I gave it, technically, I think in my video I say I gave it 4 stars. But when I was actually filling out my reading journal, I gave it more like a 3.75 stars. I feel like that's where my feelings are for this book. I don't know. I really wish I enjoyed it more. But it's like when I compare this to the first 2 books in the series, which, by the way, I think I mentioned this in my discussion, I changed my review, or I changed my ratings for all the books that she's written, so all of my opinions have changed, like, over the last year. All my ratings have changed. I think all of them but City of Glass got lowered by at least 1 star rating, which I know I'm probably going to get some hate for, but I'm sorry. I don't think I changed Lord of Shadows either. I forgot what I was gonna say. Well, on that note, let's just move on to the next book I read, which was The Music of What Happens by, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name, Bill something. I will leave it up on the screen for you guys to see. But this is actually an advanced reader's copy, and I was a bit confused on the release date of this book because on the ARC it says January 29th, but I did get in contact with the author since I couldn't get in contact with the publishers to ask what the correct release date was, because on any site where you go to buy the book it says February 26th, which is the actual release day. Something happened and they had to push the release date of the book back, because this book follows our main characters Max and Jordan, and it's actually told in dual point of view. You go from Max's point of view to Jordan, then back to Max, then back to Jordan, and that's the theme you follow through the entirety of the book. Something happens to Max at the beginning of the book that causes a whole lot of problems, like, well, it's more internal problems than external problems throughout the entirety of the book until at the end where we finally get a resolution to it. Jordan, on the other hand, has a very external problem going on with his mother and just living life in general, and at the beginning of the book both of their problems lead them to working on a food truck. But anyways, getting back to the summary, they end up taking over Jordan's dad's 1980s food truck, and going off that, and which I didn't read era, 1980s era food truck, so this is from the 1980s. It obviously isn't the 1980s. But going off that and the cover of this book, I figured it was set in the 1980s. My bad on that. It's actually set in 2019. So I was very confused until like page 6 where Max pulls out a cell phone and it's like, wait, when were cell phones invented? When did texting become a thing? And I think it was like 1992. I think I actually looked it up and that was the date they gave me when texting actually became a thing. I don't know, it threw me off enough that I had to look it up, okay? But this book basically follows them as they work on this food truck and they try to get their lives back together. And I can't really tell you anything else other than that, or I'll spoil you. And let's start off by giving a little trigger warning here for rape and, in my opinion, mental abuse. Now, I am only going off personal experience with that. I don't know if other people would consider there's a trigger warning for mental abuse, but I felt there was, so I'm mentioning it. So, the pros of this book, there was so much character development from the beginning to the end of this book. It was done very naturally, and it made me love the characters that much more because it was done in a way that didn't feel forced or cause and effect. If you guys know what I mean by cause and effect, it's like something caused the character to develop in the way they did, and it usually happens instantaneously. I hate when that happens. This, I felt like there was cause and effect, yes, but it happened in a very slow, natural process where they actually had to think things through, and I don't know how else to explain it. It just, I could see, like, if I was in this situation, it taking me this long and doing these things to grow as a person. Another pro to this book is it's incredibly fast-paced, and that could be because the chapters are really, really short. There are some that are about average size of like maybe 10 pages, but for the majority they're really short. They're like 2 to 5 pages, and so much happens in each chapter that it's surprising that they're so short. And something else I really loved about this book is there were some scenes that were very visceral. I hope I'm using the right term for that, but it's like I could see what was happening, what the place looked like, and that could be because I haven't been to Arizona, but there's I don't know if you guys know Nappy, The King Nappy and Nappy the Great and everything, or Nappy Speaks, and he's done several vlogs where he goes around his hometown in Arizona, and the places mentioned in this book, such as the trampoline park, was like perfectly pictured in my head. Most likely because I've seen it, but it was just stuff like that. If you live in Arizona, I feel like you'll perfectly picture the entirety of this book. Another setting that I found very visceral was when Jordan and Rosa, and I'm not going to tell you who Rosa is, you'll find out, but when they're at the hospital, I found that a very powerful and emotional moment, and it made me hate Jordan's mother like 10 times more than I already did, but we'll get to that in a second. Okay, now my cons. I even asked my nephew about this one, but the term dude bro, I had to look up what that meant. I also had to look up quite a few other words because they weren't, I want to say dude bro was made up, but there was actually a definition to dude bro, so I can't say it was made up, but it was so weird. And there was just a lot of terms and stuff that I had to look up. But dude bro is used way too much. The term dude in general was used way too much. There was several things like dude, like bro and word and stuff like that was just used way too much. It got annoying very fast. I think by page 60 it had to have been used about 100 times. I mean, that, I don't know, I mean, I'm exaggerating, it wasn't actually 100 times, but I would have loved to have had this book on my Kindle. I don't actually have a Kindle, my tablet, that way I could count how many times the word was used, but I didn't, so I'm just, you know, estimating that it was probably said at least a good 25-30 times, which is enough for the first 60 pages. It does get better later on though. I mean, that was more like the first third of the book was just overdone with that, and it's like as the relationship progressed in the book, that word stopped getting used as much. Thank God, because it was driving me crazy. The only other major problem I had with the book was the fact that Jordan's best friends and Max's best friends were too similar. I mean, they're opposite genders, but they were almost exactly the same person. I mean, there were like a few little quirks and features that were very different, especially with Pam. Her looks were very different from what I was expecting. But otherwise, like, their interactions with Max and Jordan were basically the same. It's like whenever you would have a chapter of Max's point of view dealing with his friends, and then we would switch to Jordan's point of view and deal with his friends, and it was almost the exact same thing. There were little differences, but they were similar enough to annoy me. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the parents. So, Max has a child father. I mean, my brother can be very childish, and he has 5 kids. But it's like he has a drawing line where he stops being childish. Max's dad apparently doesn't know what this line is. He needs to find it, because this guy with Max's problem that happens well, I don't even want to say it's a problem, because it's more than a problem. His trauma, the way his dad deals with it, it's not poor. I want to say it's poorly done, but it's not poorly done in the book. His father just did it in a poor way. Let's put it that way. His father is an idiot. An idiot that should have never been a father. But I'm glad he's a father, because then we wouldn't have Max. Jordan's issue is a whole nother story with his mother. That woman, I hated her from, like, I was 20 pages in and I couldn't stand this lady. And she just progressively got worse as the book progressed. And it's like, oh my God, how could you get any worse? I will admit that there are worse mothers out there. There are abusive mothers. There are mothers that are neglectful. And I say that very loosely, because what she's doing can be considered very, very neglectful. I don't want to give any spoilers away, because I was talking about the trigger warnings and everything for this book, and I don't want to, like, tell you which one has, even though it's, like, blatant, like, told to you very early on into the book, I don't want to spoil anything for that. But let's just say that this mother in my book is the worst fictional mother I have ever read about. Even the fictional mothers that are never there. This woman's horrible. I don't like her at all. She does so much to Jordan that it made me want to scream and throw the book, and it's just, so much frustration with her. What I can say that was good about the mother scenes, like whenever she came in, was the foreshadowing for her character was done well. I saw it coming, but I still felt it was done very well. And that's pretty much everything I can say about this book without spoiling the hell out of people. But I just finished this book last night. I had a lot to say about it. And I've already talked for like over 30 minutes about Queen of Air and Darkness. And yeah, I wanted to give this book some showtime. But this got a 4.5 out of 5 stars. And I cannot wait to buy the book in February. I can actually see myself rereading this book. And no, this is not a sponsored video. I don't do sponsored videos. Well, mainly because I don't get offered them. I've had 2 authors approach me about reading their book, but I got nothing out of the deal. I just read their book, I reviewed the book, and we were both happy. And that was like a couple years ago. I haven't done any since. So I won this off Goodreads. I read it, I loved it, I reviewed it. Alright, so let's get on to this challenge. Now, I'm going to do a January flip through of my reading / bullet journal, because it's a sketchbook, not a bullet journal. But I'm going to be doing a flip through of that, and you'll see these challenges like all on one page. But this is my reading bingo challenges. And I figured, since I did such a poor job in actually finishing those last year, mainly because I had too many, I have 24 here, so I have to do 2 each month. And I'm very nervous to see what I'll pick out of this. But I figured this would hold me more accountable to actually finishing the challenges, and it would make it a steadier pace to get them done. Okay, so the first challenge is read a new release. And by new release, I specifically said in the last 3 months. Technically, if I hadn't already read The Musical What Happens, I could count that. But I will see about new releases. There actually is a couple coming out in the next few months that I want to get to. Now the second one is read a book written by a booktuber. I was hoping I would get this one later on. There's only one, or there's 2 books. No, Zoella is not a booktuber. Is she? I don't think she is. Because I know I have her Girl Online book. The only other book I have by a booktuber is Zenith, and I'm not really wanting to read that, like, at all. But I'll look up and see when Christine's book is coming out. I may read, no, that's May 7th. Okay, I guess I'm reading Zenith this month. Oh my god, I don't want to read that book right now. Oh well, I guess now it's time for me to see if my opinion is going to be like everyone else's opinion. And by everyone else, I just mean like the majority. I'm really dreading this, guys. I am really, really dreading this. But on that happy note, these are all the books that I read at the end of 2018. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!